Another scandal over climate temperature data. Hundreds are arrested in a human trafficking bust in California, and a possible red heifer is found for the third temple, and you'll never guess where. It's SkyWatchTV for Monday, February 6th, 2017. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, President Trump's executive order on immigration may be headed to the Supreme Court. A district judge in Seattle blocked the pause in immigration from 7 majority Muslim nations Friday night. The judge's ruling was based on complaints filed by the states of Minnesota and Washington, but his temporary restraining order applies to all 50 states. And the question not being asked by the major media is why a district court judge feels he has the authority to impose a temporary restraining order on all 50 states. The answer to that question, of course, is he really doesn't, but this will have to be settled in court. He shouldn't have the authority, and his ruling, quite frankly, is absurd on its face. Judge Robart wrote, and I quote, "The states are likely to suffer irreparable harm in the absence of my preliminary relief," the restraining order. Irreparable harm means harm that cannot be corrected. And quoting, "The executive order limiting immigration adversely affects the state's residents in areas of employment, education, business, family relations, and freedom to travel." Really? Really? Putting a 120-day pause on immigration from 7 majority Muslim nations affects all 50 states in the areas of employment, education, business, family relations, and ability to travel. Well, again, lawyers will have their say, and this may go all the way to the Supreme Court. Something a little more serious, radiation inside reactor number 2 at the Fukushima nuclear plant has reached what some experts are calling an unimaginable level. Japan Times reporting that radiation has reached 530 sieverts per hour. Now, what does that mean? I had to look it up. This is the highest level, by the way, recorded inside the damaged reactor since March of 2011, when the earthquake and accident took place. The previous record high was 73. Again, the new level, 530. A single dose of 1 sievert is enough to cause radiation sickness and nausea. 5 sieverts. 1/100th of the level inside the reactor now would kill half the people exposed to it within a month. And a single dose of 10 sieverts is almost certainly fatal within a matter of weeks. The really bad news is this 6-foot hole that you can see in the image back here. This is in the metal grating below the reactor's primary containment vessel. It's believed that the hole was caused when nuclear fuel escaped the containment vessel, which is so named because it's supposed to contain the nuclear fuel. Well, the high radiation levels may mean that the fuel is just below this hole, but it also means that the melted fuel is coming into contact with water running off from the nearby mountains and then escaping out to sea. Experts say about 80% of the radiation from Fukushima has gone out into the Pacific Ocean, where it has been carried by currents across the ocean. And perhaps not coincidentally, the U.S. Department of Commerce announced 2 weeks ago that commercial fisheries in Alaska, Washington, and California have been suffering massive failures. And they're asking, these fishing communities now are able, because of this declaration, to ask Congress for relief. In Alaska, the salmon catch was worth about 1/7 of what it is in a normal year. Biologists say they're stumped. Connection to Fukushima? At least the news on the climate is a little better. It may be changing, but not as quickly as we're told, and it almost certainly has nothing to do with what you and I choose to drive. A high-level whistleblower who worked at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, told the Daily Mail, a London-based newspaper, that NOAA basically fudged the data in a report released just before the 2015 United Nations Climate Conference in Paris, the one where the world sort of agreed to cut way back on greenhouse gas emissions. The report claimed that the pause or slowdown in global warming that's been recorded since 1998 and not disclosed until 2013 never existed. Again, this according to the NOAA report. which also said that world temperatures were in fact rising faster than expected. Well, the whistleblower, Dr. John Bates, told the Daily Mail that NOAA based its conclusions on misleading, unverified data. And Dr. Bates accused the lead author of the paper of insisting on decisions and choices that maximized warming to discredit the idea of a global warming pause. He'd already settled on the conclusion, in other words, and he wanted to fabricate the data to support the conclusion. It's like this sometimes with true believers. To them, truth is what they believe, not the conclusions you draw from the available evidence. So it's okay to lie if it's in support of truth, which makes no sense, but this is another example of this type of worldview. So the lead author pushed the publication with the flawed, unsupported, unverified data in order to get it out to the public before the climate conference in 2015. The paper relied on data sets that were essentially alpha versions, not even beta versions, but alpha versions of the data, never verified, never approved. The final version of the data has never been released so that other researchers can go back and double check it and verify it. All of that was ignored at the Paris Climate Conference, which relied on this paper to bring the world into agreement to cut greenhouse gas emissions. Now, President Trump has said he is going to ignore that agreement and pull the United States out of the accord. The rest of the world, or at least the climate believers, have accused President Trump of being anti-science. It appears that he's just anti-fake science. Not coincidentally, the snowpack in the Sierra Nevada mountains here in the United States, largest in 22 years, and more snow is on the way. In fact, just talked to a fellow I'm supposed to do an interview about my new book. We've had to put it off because they've just had 3 feet of snow and can't get out of the driveway. The Heavenly Ski Resort at South Lake Tahoe, 25 feet of snow since New Year's. That's less than 5 weeks, and more on the way. Still, we have to wonder why so many billionaires, especially tech billionaires here in the U.S., are building getaway homes, safe retreats in places like New Zealand. Trump supporter Peter Thiel, who's the co-founder of PayPal, early investor in Facebook, founder of a company called Palantir that has many government contracts here in the U.S., big supporter of the transhumanist movement, spoke at the Republican National Committee, their convention rather this year, recently spent $10 million to buy a 477-acre estate in New Zealand. Last year, wealthy foreigners, mainly Americans and Australians, bought up about 1,400 square miles of land in Kiwi country. Apparently, the wealthy think they see something coming. Chile is also a popular destination for the wealthy who want some place to hide when stuff hits the fan. Do they know something that we don't? Or are they just bored nerds with too much money and an appetite for adventure? We'll find out. Well, apparently, they played a football game in Houston, Texas last night. The Bears weren't in it, but I watched anyway, just out of, so I could report on it today. New England won. It was arguably the greatest Super Bowl in history in terms of the game itself. First overtime game ever. New England overcame the greatest deficit to win the game in Super Bowl history. Final score 34-28 in overtime. The commercials during the show, which are normally a highlight of the Super Bowl as far as I'm concerned, this year were awfully preachy. I would have hoped that the political ads would have stopped in November, but they didn't. Just a few comments I jotted down during the program. The Google ad for its new Google Home device, which is like the Amazon Echo. Like the Amazon Echo ads intended to convince us that it would be a wonderful thing to have somebody on the other end of the internet listening to you all the time. And of course, the commercial caused the Google Home devices for people who already owned them to go crazy. Thought somebody was telling it to do something. The avocado commercial, the Mexican avocado commercial, I know some people got really upset because they thought it was making fun of those of us who try to look for answers behind the headlines. I just thought it was funny. The 84 lumber ad, like the Budweiser commercial, like a number of other spots, were intended to tell us that unrestricted immigration is a wonderful thing. Well, I'm sure the Romans in the 4th century thought that they were being awfully helpful by letting the Goths across the Danube, because the poor Goths were being killed by the Huns. And within a couple of decades, the Goths were sacking Rome. So those who forget history are condemned to repeat it. The halftime show, Lady Gaga, we were, I think, expecting something a little more political from her. She has certainly been outrageous enough in the past. But opening up with God Bless America and synchronized drones forming an American flag behind her certainly wasn't what anyone expected. In terms of conveying her message to the American public, it was an excellent performance. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not endorsing Lady Gaga or her message. I'm just saying that in terms of putting it across, she did an excellent job. She disarmed many people who were ready to criticize her by singing God Bless America and This Land Is Your Land in front of an American flag. She did, of course, get her message across by singing her kind of anthem, Born This Way, which is a song that basically sells the message that no matter what lifestyle you live, it's good because we're all just born this way. For people who don't like Lady Gaga or her music, probably none of us had our minds changed. Those of us who already liked her thought it was probably great, but she probably softened a lot of criticism by performing the way she did. And again, I'll say in terms of selling her message, it was an excellent performance, which is what makes it so insidious. You see, Satan himself can appear as an angel of light. So don't expect evil to look like the Hollywood depiction of evil. Satan doesn't win many converts by appearing as a monster. Generally will appear as something very appealing, very attractive, with a message that sounds very reasonable, very open-minded, very loving. But like the Bereans, go back to the scripture, compare it, contrast it, and be prepared to argue against a message like this with gentleness and respect. Coming up, another reason for doing what we do here at SkyWatchTV, meaning our partnership with Whispering Ponies Ranch and Royal Family Kids, a major pedophile ring busted in California. That's next on SkyWatchTV.
Some of the greatest prophetic mysteries of the Bible that the world has ever pondered have now been carefully explored. And the SkyWatch TV store is bringing the exploration to you in the new Mysteries of the Bible Revealed special offer. In this special offer, you'll receive the new book by New York Times best-selling author Joel Richardson, Mystery Babylon. Richardson works through the history of the Christian interpretation of Mystery Babylon, weighing the strengths and weaknesses of each view, and then making a powerful case for a solution to this prophecy that will rock scholars around the world. You'll also receive The Mystery of the Shemitah from New York Times best-selling author Jonathan Cahn. This is a book you can't afford not to read. Cahn explores a possible 3,000-year-old mystery that may explain the timing of 9/11, the lies behind world wars, the collapse of nations, empires, and may hold the key to what lies ahead for the world and for your life. Plus, we'll also include in this special offer the unexplained mysteries of heaven and earth. Join author Ron Phillips as he combines his trademark theological balance with extensive historical research to travel through time to look at the flood, the Great Pyramid, the rapture, and much more. Altogether, this incredible offer holds an unprecedented retail value of over $50. Yours now for only $19.99 plus shipping and handling. So now you can explore the greatest prophetic mysteries of the Bible. Place your order for the Mysteries of the Bible Revealed special offer at skywatchtvstore.com now.
Police in California arrested 474 suspects in a recent bust and rescued dozens of women and children, 28 kids, 27 adult victims, 140 men arrested for solicitation, 36 on suspicion of pimping. This was a major multi-agency operation, a sting that included the Los Angeles Regional Human Trafficking Task Force. Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonald said about 70% of the kids who are trafficked come from foster homes. But if you've seen the recent programs on SkyWatch TV, the episodes featuring the founder and president of Royal Family Kids, who we are partnering with in 2017 at Whispering Ponies Ranch, you would already know that. And it's why we do what we do in working with foster kids, to break them out of this cycle of abuse, of being used as nothing more than meat on the hoof, as it were, without getting any more graphic than that. The therapy horses at Whispering Ponies Ranch, there to help break down the walls, the scar tissue, if you will, of these children who are used in this way for pornography, for prostitution, by pedophiles. This is us doing something concrete about the problem of pedophilia in this world, working with actual victims to begin the healing process. If you want to help, suggest that you support the work that we do here or support the work of organizations like MillionKids.org. You remember in 2016, we did a number of programs with Opal Singleton, the CEO of MillionKids.org, who works with the Riverside County Human Trafficking Task Force right next door to Los Angeles. Very likely agencies that she consults were part of this big arrest in Los Angeles. And Rafa House. Opal Singleton sits on the board. This is a group that's just down the road from us in Joplin, Missouri. Again, working with the victims of human trafficking. They're at rafahouse.org, millionkids.org, available online at millionkids.org, of course. Again, something concrete that you can do, supporting the work of either of these agencies or what we do through Whispering Ponies Ranch, which you'll find online at whisperingponiesranch.com. Speaking of crimes against women and children, and specifically Christian women and children, a Muslim mob attacked a Christian church in eastern Uganda during a prayer meeting a couple of weeks back. This occurred the night of January 15th, but only now becoming public knowledge. It was reportedly a revenge attack against the pastor of the church in Katira, Uganda, for converting Muslims in the community to Christianity. The mob abducted the pastor and 8 other parishioners. The men in the church were beaten. The mob locked the doors, locked them inside. 15 women were raped. The pastor and those 8 others are still missing more than 2 weeks later. In Israel, the Sanhedrin has been reconstituted after 2,000 years, and it has reinstated the half-shekel temple tax. When the temple was standing, every Jewish man was required to give a half-shekel weight of silver, that's about 8 grams, as a mandatory tax to support the temple. And once deposited at the temple courtyard, those coins were considered sanctified and couldn't be used for anything else but supporting the work of the temple. Spokesman for the Sanhedrin said that with the plans for the temple moving forward, it was time to bring back the tax. And it's possible one of the biggest obstacles toward consecrating and building the third temple has been overcome, finding a perfect red heifer to fulfill the requirements of the ritual, purification ritual described in Numbers chapter 19. Much to most people's surprise, this heifer was found in Mexico, which is not exactly known for its Jewish population. It was in a remote region of Mexico. A rabbi there who was going to buy milk from a local dairy farm spotted the calf. Rabbi Benny Hershkovich is the emissary of the Chabad movement to Cabo San Lucas in Baja California, which is kind of a resort or retirement area. Chabad is a branch of Hasidic Judaism, which places strong emphasis on the work of the Messiah. Now, the rabbi said that he never expected to see a red heifer in his lifetime. The farmer, who, as you might guess, is not Jewish, had never heard of the biblical command and had no idea why Rabbi Hershkovich was so excited. Now, the rabbi says he doesn't feel qualified to judge whether this heifer meets the qualifications. According to the Torah and its interpretation over the years, the heifer must be absolutely perfect. Even a small blemish, even a single hair, the wrong color, white or black, will disqualify it. If it had ever been put under a yoke, also disqualified. So it's not likely this calf is going to become part of temple service in the future, but it's just a reminder that Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox Jews are looking and they are accumulating the utensils needed for temple service. Now, as Christians, we know we don't need a temple to worship the Messiah. He was already come once and is coming a second time. But since prophecy tells us that the Antichrist will declare himself God in the temple, there will have to be a temple for him to do that. And so we keep watch. Speaking of prophecy, this week, our second week on SkyWatch TV with Joel Richardson about his new book, Mystery Babylon. For a complete listing of dates and times, well, you've seen them on the crawl here at the bottom of the screen, or log on to skywatchtv.com/channels. You'll find links to our social media sites there as well, including our new Instagram channel, and you'll find all of my stuff online at derekpgilbert.com. Thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.